Hi, this is Steve. I'm pastor of Eugene Mennonite Church. Most of you already knew that, but some of you maybe have stumbled upon this video and, well, I'm sorry. Anyway, but we're here for the virtual Eugene Mennonite Church experience. We're here. I'm with you. I don't have a worship leader today, except for me. I'm the worship leader. I thought Diane was going to be the worship leader, but she opted out. Is that a mean thing to say? Okay. Okay. We're gonna actually, and in case any of you were like, oh man, they don't have their church service like this every time. Oh yeah. No, this is kind of the way it usually begins. It's just like that. Had somebody recently say that they at their new church that they didn't laugh, and that seemed very sad to me, because churches, we need to laugh. We need to laugh at ourselves. We've got to do that if we're going to actually be in communion with the God of love. We need to laugh at ourselves. It helps. All right, we're going to go ahead and begin. So we're going to begin with the peace candle. For the healing of the nations, Lord, we pray with one accord for a just and equal sharing of the things that earth affords. To a life of love and action, help us raise and pledge our word. Let's go ahead and read Psalm 146. Yahweh forms the heaven and earth, all powers and everything in them. Yahweh remains true to love. Through their people devoted to love, they uphold the cause of the oppressed and gives food to the hungry. Yahweh sets the prisoners free. Yahweh gives sight to the blind. Yahweh supports the destitute. Yahweh loves those who do all these works. Yahweh cares for the refugee, sustains the fatherless and the widow. But Yahweh undermines the ways of oppressors. Yahweh, God of love, reigns forever. Let's do the opening worship. O God, for too long the world has called us to war, and our dead lie sprawled across the bleeding centuries. But you break the bow and shatter the spear, calling us to sow the seeds of peace in the midst of despair. In tenderness, may we take the tiniest sprouts and plant them where they may safely grow into blossoms of hope. Amen. All right, now it's time for hymns. Hymn time. Scroll down on the page because they're right down there, right below me. We've got 3 hymns. So we got a piano player to come and play the piano and to lead us in singing, except that it wasn't us, it's somebody else from YouTube who we've never met before, but it's nice piano renditions of a couple of the songs. And then the third one, there's actually people singing, so don't be surprised by that. Don't be, oh no, a cappella singing. We've never been scared about a cappella singing before. Let's not start now. Anyway, so if you want to, go ahead and scroll down and do those hymns now. I'll wait. Okay. So, we're going to go ahead and do the teaching now. I'm supposed to do the scripture reading now, except that I don't have my Bible. And I just want to let you guys know, just because we're here, and I feel really close to you right now, that this is the 5th time that we've started this video. And I'm going to do my best not to have to start it again, okay? And so let's just push on through. And so the passage today is Romans chapter 12, verses 4 through 10. And it talks about how all of us are the body of Christ, and how we do, as members of the body of Christ, we do different things in love. You get the idea. May the Lord bless this reading of his word. If you are not a member of Eugene Mennonite Church, I just want to apologize to you. And if you are a member of Eugene Mennonite Church, I think maybe I need to apologize to you too. It's been a long day. All right. Now we're going to do the teaching. I'm going to take a drink of tea first. So, first thing I want to talk about is Auld Lang Syne, the song, Auld Lang Syne. So, Auld Lang Syne, or at least the words, are often attributed to Robert Burns, the famous poet. He actually claims that he transcribed the lyric from an old man that he happened to be passing by on the road. The title is a phrase that might generally be translated for old time's sake. So when troops in World War I were celebrating Christmas in 1915, so the Scot and the English and the German and other nationalities in the war, they had their truce, the famous truce in World War I, and they actually sang Auld Lang Syne together. And it was, some of them sang in their own language, but most of them knew the words, and they all knew the tune. And they just sang the song together. It was a song that showed that that even though there were a lot of differences, that they had a unity around that song. And so the funny thing is that the song talks about times past, but we sing it at the new year, which is interesting. But it's supposed to recall. It's supposed to help us recall the times past and the times that we had back in the day. And one of the things, like I remember Vera. Vera is severely schizophrenic. She would often have really strong, sometimes mean arguments with the voices in her head. And she came to our kitchen, and I will say she organized that kitchen. And anytime that somebody needed something in that kitchen, she was so kind. She's so kind to everyone. She's kind to everyone, unless you're a voice in her head. Then she's not kind to them, but she's kind to everybody else. And anybody that needed help every day, her life was made worthwhile because of the people that she had around her, of the people that just kept her connected to life and to reality. We all have things that give us meaning. It's a part of human existence. We need not only to be alive, so like Vera was homeless, but she needed not only to have things to survive, like food and clothing and shelter, but also we all need an additional thing. We need something that is going to help us to feel like we're included in the universe. A sense that we are a piece of a jigsaw puzzle and we have our place and we're in that place as a part of the bigger puzzle. Now, in sermons past, I've talked about my friend Fred, and he also struggled with schizophrenia. And even though he had a place to live, I mean, during the day he would wander the streets and he would twirl and shout and remain ill-clad mostly in our house. But he found his place. He found a new location to live, and he found his balance in life. And that balance is primarily to pray one prayer, the Lord's Prayer, the Shema, and to study the Ten Commandments. And every day, from the time that he rises to the time that he lays down, he repeats these prayers and he reads the same texts every day. His puzzle that he fits in is transcendence, that he is a part of the nature of God, and he recognizes that how he lives is being the lifestyle of God, and he doesn't need anything else. And to us, that life may seem extreme, but for him, that's a balance. I know because I saw him before he lived that life, and his life was completely unbalanced by all the different things that were going on. But once he focused on the one thing of his connection with God and the connection with these words and the and all that. He knows where his place is in the universe, and he can see the whole universe, and he can see his place in that. And even though everybody else is involved in so many dramas, he lives in a foster care home with a lot of mentally ill folks, and there's lots of drama around that. But it doesn't matter. He is the person of calm. He is the one centered person in all of everything that's going on. And he has something that I don't have, because I focus on any number of millions of different things. But he is centered, and he is focused because he has that transcendence. He knows his place. Now, if you and I are looking for meaning, or any number of other people are looking for meaning in our lives, that may or may not have to do with God. I believe that God created all of us. I believe that God created love, and he created love in us, and he created beauty in us, and the recognition of beauty, and he created awe, and he created justice, and hope and passion within every single one of us. And we all have that, and it is sufficient in order for us to live out the creation of God. It's sufficient to God for us to live out that creation and to have that balance, or the place that we're supposed to have, to just fulfill our human nature as it was originally created. So Fred was 60 when he found a place that he could live out his passion for God without disturbance. Vera, on the other hand, creates community out of service wherever she goes, continually, even to this day. Now, another one of my friends is Jimmy. When I met him, he was a pair of drunks on the street, and his life seemed like a complete dead end. And his best friend, Steve, passed away, and Jimmy was alone. And I figured, well, it probably won't be too long until Jimmy goes too. But it didn't turn out that way, because Jimmy ended up finding a purpose in protecting a group of kids on the street. And he would help them and help them figure out how to live on the street, because he did it for so many years. And then he ended up having a partner, Linda, who also was kind of the mom over these kids in the street. And then eventually Jimmy and Linda ended up coming back to for Jimmy was back, to our church, and to just oversee everyone who came, to make sure that they had what they need and had the basics, and to make sure that everything was doing well. And Jimmy basically protected everyone unless he was drunk that day, and then he couldn't do that quite so well. But he did that, and then he continued to do that until that place was no longer available, and then he just kind of drifted until he passed away very calmly, and just that was because he had what he needed. It wasn't so much that Jimmy had to protect people, but he had to have a purpose. And it was funny, because it was after his friend Steve died that he could find that purpose, that purpose kind of grabbed a hold of him, and he had something that he knew where that piece fit in the universe. And he was a whole person for a period of time. And I also remember Diver. And Diver was kind of a wandering sort. He was a lifelong hippie. He was raised a hippie. He was always a hippie. And he used weed and meth and other drugs to keep him unfocused and doing whatever it was that he was doing. One of the things that he did a lot was he would dumpster dive. That's where his name came from. Find things that he needed. He would vow to quit drugs and he would come and live in our house for a little while. But then he'd eventually leave, and then he would go, and then he would come, and then he would go, and he would come. Until finally he came back to our house with a dog, Alice. And once he came with Alice, he stayed, because Alice became his focus. He knew that he couldn't use meth and take care of Alice. He couldn't do both. So he quit meth. And then he found that he couldn't do other things and take care of Alice. Couldn't wander around so much. And so he settled down a little bit more. And then we ended up giving him a task, a managerial task at the church, and he did that work. And he was able to earn some money, and he grew in experience and stability, and then he could still camp every once in a while, take Alice with him, but he didn't need to do that anymore. And then he got a job, and then he moved out of our house and into another location where he's still at, and then he got married, and he's got now. Well, before, he didn't have anything tying him down. Now he has lots of ties to the earth because he was growing in all that time. And he's continuing to grow. And he just grows all the time. And that's what he's doing. That is how he knows his place, because he just keeps growing as a person. So for me, now as a pastor, I've got two main jobs. I have the job to build community. I have the job to tell stories. A sermon is basically a story. It's a kind of a story. A social media post is a story. A book of theology or an essay is a story. And politics is a story. These are all myth-making devices to create our reality, to make our reality meaningful. And a story can be a beautiful thing in and of itself, on paper or on the internet. But my purpose is not just to hear stories or to tell stories, but to make stories real, to make them happen in real life, to incarnate stories, to have them put on flesh and structure. I think that stories are even greater when you can not just hear them, but experience them, to touch them, to create them. So I saw a story of a community of homeless people, and I experienced a story of a community house, and I heard a story of a village where people could grow and live. And I heard another story of giving poor people a facility to do laundry, and it was my job when these stories came up to say, yeah, I'm gonna help make these stories a reality, to make them happen. So that way we can see them and we can experience them, and we can make them happen in other places. So, I'm going to tell you a secret now. Don't tell anyone. But the last couple sermons and this sermon here is from a book called The Power of Meaning by Emily Esfahani Smith. And that is talking about the meaning of who we are as human beings. I mean, there's a lot of particular stories that she gives in the book, that Emily gives in the book, but she is really trying to talk about what is the story of humanity, what gives us meaning in our lives. And she says that our lives as human beings become significant when we place our lives into something bigger. So, for instance, if we are a part of a community, such as a family or a church, if we have a purpose in our lives, such as helping the poor or writing a book, if we do storytelling, like explaining our lives or doing some kind of teaching, if we experience transcendence, either on an ongoing basis or just a few times, where we can recognize our place in a bigger creation or in humanity. Or if we're just experiencing growth, like such as being a part of a recovery process or learning different spiritual experiences. Every single one of these ways, and these are all big, and she talks about more specific ones, but it's a way for us to say to the world, not just I survived or I am surviving, but to say to the world, I am here. I'm a part of this existence. I have significance. I am here. So I told the story before about the Christmas truce in World War I. A year after that, the next Christmas, nobody was really to celebrate with people on the other side of the lines at that point. There had been too many people who had been died, too many massacres that had occurred, and too much mustard gas going across the lines, killing people's friends. They weren't interested in going on the other side and singing Auld Lang Syne. That didn't stop them from singing Auld Lang Syne, or at least some form of it, but they changed the lyrics to suit their frustrations and desire to end it all, and not necessarily their lives, but to end the war. And they sang to the tune of Auld Lang Syne, "We're here because we're here, because we're here, because we're here, because we're here." And that can sound like a horrible irony, but the fact is that saying, "We are here," is also our hope. That is our meaning. We are here. And sometimes we kind of need to shout out to ourselves and to everyone else, "Hey, I'm here," and that's a good thing. We are here. That's part of what makes being here important, or the things that makes us important. So, for instance, Ruthie bike rides across the world, and that's her way of saying, "I am here." And Becky's actions for the poor, that means that she's here. And Jerry's guitar playing, that means he's here. And Karen's counseling, that means that she's here. That's a statement that, once said, will never become untrue. Once we say, "I am here," we can say, yeah, that person was here. That person was significant. And that never becomes untrue. We are here, and we are significant, and our lives have meaning. And so, I want you to sing the truth with me. Sing that very truth to the tune of Auld Lang Syne. We're going to do it right now. Well, I'm going to do it, and I welcome you to sing with me. We're here because we're here, because we're here, because we're here. We're here because we're here, because we're here, because we're here. All right, I just want to, just to finish off this teaching, I just want to say I want to give credit not only to Emily Esfani Smith, but also to the author John Green, who gave me the stuff about Auld Lang Syne at the beginning and the end there. I definitely recommend reading The Power of Meaning. If you're part of Eugene Mennonite Church, I'm getting an actual physical copy. When I get it, I'm going to pass it on to Susan, and then maybe if Susan eventually is done with it, or she's one way or the other, then we can pass that on to other people. But I also recommend listening to John Green's podcast. He's written a lot of books, like his most famous one is The Fault in Our Stars. But he also has a podcast called The Anthropomorphine Reviewed. And it is probably some of the best essays I've ever read. Except I didn't read them, I heard them. Anyway, you get the idea. So, recommend that. Announcements. Let's do some announcements, okay? First of all, tomorrow, which is coming very quickly. Quicker than I thought it would be. Anyway, tomorrow we're going to have a Zoom community gathering. What we're going to do for a while is we're going to get on Zoom at 11 o'clock every Sunday. And anybody at the church who wants to come and participate in that, you're welcome to come. By the way, if you're a person who doesn't regularly come to our church, but you get the email and stuff like that, you're welcome to come to the Zoom thing. So, please come. There's somebody who was like, "Oh, I don't know if it may make me feel weird." Please come. Happy to have you join us. And so if you get the bulletin, you'll see the link right there in the bulletin, and you can do that. And so tomorrow, I'm going to be leading, and there's going to be I'm going to be a couple questions. Important question that we all need to answer. Everyone has to answer is that if you could eat only one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? That's going to be a question that we're all going to answer tomorrow. All right. Now, another thing that I need to talk about. So last week we talked about an offering that we're taking, and if people want to give a certain amount of money to a benevolence fund, so that way if any family has a need, then we can give money to that. If you know of a family in need, then email me and at peaceofeugene@gmail.com. Email me and we'll see if we can use some of that money to help them. But and so far we've been able to raise $7,500, and then we have a matching fund, and so we can still raise a couple hundred more, and that matching fund will still meet that and double that money. Okay, that's one thing, and that one is almost done. But then we have another one that Catholic Community Services contacted us this week and wanted us to help them because they're running out of funds, especially for their general fund that they use to get their food, that they use to keep their facilities running, and all of that. They're running out of money because of the crisis that they're in, and so they contacted us saying, "Is there any way that we can help?" And so we've been talking about it this week, and we just want to say, if you, so we're not looking for money right now. We'll take care of that. We've got some money in the fund, so we can do an Everence grant of $1,000, a matching grant, and we will do that. But if anyone is like, well, I don't know that we should be doing that right now, I have a concern about this, if you would please contact myself or Becky and let us know that there's a concern about that, then we definitely want to hear from you. Okay, there was something else, and I don't remember what it is now. So, but there's more things in the bulletin, and so if you, please read that. There's some more articles in the bulletin. Like last week, we have one thing that a lot of people actually really, not in the church, but other people outside that really enjoyed, is an article about the natural shape of beehives. If bees were just out and they were just doing their beehives, what would their beehives look like? And this actually gives a lot of pictures of just natural beehives. And one of the coolest ones is a beehive in the shape of a heart. It's just very cool. Anyway, I recommend that. And then there's an article about charity in the Jewish tradition, which is also very interesting. All right, so we're gonna do some prayer. One of the people, or one of the groups that we're gonna pray for, are Palestinians in Hebron, Palestinians in Israel, the Muslim Palestinians. They're not all Muslim, but the ones who are Muslim are going to be having Ramadan coming up, and it's hard when you're in a place where you are oppressed all the time, and then there's additional restrictions, wise restrictions, because of the virus, and then there's an additional religious restriction on top of that. It's a difficult life to live. So these folks are actually asking for prayer. They're asking for prayer from us to just help them and to give them peace and mercy during this time. So let's go ahead and take some time of prayer. As usual, I'm just going to speak some people, and we're just going to have a time of silence, and we can pray or meditate for them. Mercy on the forgotten, oppressed, who suffer, but no one knows it. Mercy on those who are abandoned. Mercy on those who are going through a time of quarantine, but they have no community. Mercy for those who are overwhelmed with fear right now. And mercy on the Palestinian peoples. Amen. All right, let's do a benediction. Lord, make us instruments of peace. Where there is hatred, let us sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy. O Divine Master, grant that we may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, and to be loved as to love.